Hello students, in this video we are going to discuss 5G core network. This is the 5G core network, right? So in this figure it illustrates many components or blocks between the UE and data network. Okay, so between the UE and data network means what? Whatever we are using internet, it may be on YouTube, WhatsApp, Google, or whatever it is. So it is the 5G core network between the UE and data network. This is user equipment. This is data network, external data network in order to use the internet. So in between these two, we have a 5G core network. Okay, so we will discuss one by one each components. In this session, we will discuss UE, GNB, access and management mobility functions, session management function, user plane function. Okay, the remaining 4 blocks we will discuss in the next video. So UE, you know already we have discussed in our UMTS architecture. So UE is a user equipment, right? So it may be a mobile, laptop, tablet, or any other devices. So in order to communicate between two devices or between the devices and data network. So we have discussed about what are the components we have in the UE component. So especially RF circuitry, radio frequency power amplifier circuitry with respect to the power, battery and baseband processing. So, and one more thing, the important component is SIM, subscriber identity module. It holds the information about the particular user, authentication key, encryption key, and IMSI, MSISDN, right? TMSI, and so on. Isn't it? The same concept holds good for here also. And the next one is GNB. GNB means what? It is a next gen node B. Next generation node B. This is a tower, right? Or the tower holds the antennas, isn't it? So this one also we have discussed in our UMTS. Again, once again, here we will recall whatever we have discussed there, right? So here just in the one generation to the next generation, we are using the same components, but the assigning name itself different, right? In UMTS we have called EN node B, NB, right? Here we are calling GNB. GNB means next generation node B. Here also the main functionality of GNB is, you know very well, it is a transmitting and receiving the signal, right? And performing encryption, encoding, multiplexing, modulation, right? These are the main functionalities of GNB. So along with that, it will interact with other blocks or other components of 5G core network, such as access and management mobility function, user plane function, and with UE, right? It interacts with other block also, right? So using the interfaces here, UE interacts with the AMF, access and management mobility function, using NG1, right? And GNB interacts with access and management mobility function using ng2, right? And ng3 is the interface between the GNB and user plane functions, right? So here between UE and AMF, between UE and AMF we are using ng1. So why we are using that interface? In order to send the controlling information, signaling informations, we need that. And we are sending and also we are using ng3 interface between tower and user plane functions. So in order to send the user data path, path in which data stream the data has to be sent, right? So, and we are using ng2 as an interface between GNB and UE through AMF. So as it is a radio interface, right? So these are the interfaces we are using in GNB. So the next one is access and management mobility function, right? So AMF, access and management mobility function. Usually this AMF is used for registration, authentication and handover procedure. What is that registration? So before setting up the call or establishing a call, so or in order to establish the data stream, first we need to register our mobile with the network, right? We have to register it. There may be an public user, private users, or emergency users. We have different type of users, right? So based on the users, they have to register respective registration, emergency registration, private registration, public registrations, and so on. So that one is performed in the AMF. Okay, and authentication. So before setting up the call or before allocating the IP address in order to send the data to the data network, so first the AMF, the 5G network, has to authenticate whether he is a particular cell user or he is coming from other cell user or coming from other network user, right? Based on that authentication server function we will see next video. So by using this component, the network authenticate the user whether he's a valid user or is coming from other network user, like that. Using authentication key, authenticate the user that can perform by the AMF. And also handovering from one cell to the another cell, or whenever the user in the cell edge, right? Or cell edge means I have explained this one, right? We call this one as a cell edge. When the user is here means, right? So he is not in the home location. So he is in between. So it has to take the decision whether we have to maintain the same home location, um, or it has to hand over the channel, right, to other neighboring cell. So this and all perform the access and management mobility function. Okay, so here also we are using different interfaces, right? So we are using the interface ng12, right, with the authentication server function, ng8 with the unified data function or unified data management, ng15 with the policy control function, and ng11 with the session management function. Okay, so we will see in detail other blocks Right now, just we will discuss what all the interfaces this AMF uses. Now we will discuss user plane function. Okay, so here that user plane function, it acts as same as MSC, whatever we have discussed in our GSM, Global System for Mobile Communication, right? The same working functionality in user plane function, right? What it will do, it will forward the call and it will find out the call routing. It manage the call routing and find the routing, and also it forward the call. What is that forwarding data or forwarding or routing data, right? So routing data means it has to find out, UPF has to find out the shortest route in order to send the datas very within few seconds, right? Within second it has to send data, right? I need to find out the shortest route between the user plane function and data network, isn't it? So that is the data routing and packet routing. I need to send the packet in the shortest route. It can be done by using the software defined networking, SDN, right? So it is a, that work is done by the software. It is an, we call that one as a intelligent computing, right? Intelligent softwares, right? So by using that software we can able to find out the shortest, by using algorithms. What is there in the software? It is an algorithm, right? By using some intelligent algorithms we can able to find out the shortest path in order to send the packets, right? So we are converting our data into the small chunks. We call that one as a packets, right? So we are not transmitting the entire length of data, we are breaking down into small packets, right? Call forwarding means what, ma'am? Call forwarding means, so once if we are finding the path due to some changing network conditions, for some other reasons, right? I have to change the route, right? Or I have to change the path, or I have to switch some other devices, some other user plane functions, right? During that time, I have to forward the data, right? Call forwarding and packet routing functions, these are the main functionalities of user plane function. And also it is responsible for efficient transmission of user data packets between UE and external data network, right? So by find outing the shortest route path, right? It has to, by using the, based on the policy control function, I will explain what is that policy control function. It has to send the data efficiently to the external data network. For example, what type of data we are accessing to the data network, you are doing that. So what is that? Video streaming, virtual reality, with, and gaming, right? So efficiently transmitting data means with low latency, high throughput, right? So within the short duration of time I have to send my data. So not only that, it also perform the packet inspection and policy rule enforcement, as I said before. So before transmitting the data, it has to find out what type of subscriber, what type of data is coming, right? So which one I have to give prioritize based on the, it has to categorize based on the subscriber, right? So like that. So user plane function um, monitors the packets or investigate the packets, and also it enforces the policies based on the subscribers. The policies and all, it is coming from the policy control function. Okay, so we will discuss in the next video. And finally, the one more block is session management function. Session management function It is an important block because once the user start to access the external data network, once the users start to send the data in order to access the data network, it may be on YouTube, WhatsApp, email, or uploading and downloading, or whatever it is. So yeah, the network should have to assign unique IP address to the user, right? So that by using that IP address only, the data stream starts, isn't it? That is done by the session management function. Once IP address assigned, it start the data stream. Okay. So after creating the data stream, the session management has to maintain, and also whenever the user don't want, it has to release. What is that session establish? We can create means we can also call that one as a establishment. Session establishment, session maintaining, or session releasing, right? Session establishment means what? There is a creating a path or user accessing the data network in the particular data stream, right? So here we have many components, right, between the user and data network. What are those? It is a UE to GNB, GNB to UPF, user plane function, and data network. This is the path established between the UE and data network for establishing the data session, right? So what is that maintaining? So maintaining means until then user releasing the or when the user moves from one cell to another cell, if there is any handover or user itself disconnected, until then that session should be maintained, right, without any fault, right? So without any, based on the user policy, right, it has to maintain that session. What is that releasing or removing? Once the user move hand over from one cell to another cell, or he's not within the range of frequency, or user itself disconnected, the session management function, what it will do, it will take out the IP address, which means it will disconnect that path data stream, right? It will delete that data stream, and it will store in this data pool. In order to allocate the same IP address, it has to allocate the same IP address to the other user, right? It will reclaim the IP address, it put it in the data pool, right? IP address pool, right? In this way, the SMF starts the session, maintain the session, and release the session. And also it interacts with other components also, right? Authentication, access and management, mobility function, policy control function, application functions, and mainly it talks with the user plane function. We'll discuss these things later. Okay, it talks with the user plane function. What it will do, what it will talks, what how it controls the user plane function. So it sends the what type of user requested the data, right? When to send the data, in which route it has to send the data, right? So those things, not only that, what type of policy have for that particular user with respect to the quality service, data rate, no, and latency, right? So with respect, we have different user, right? I have what I have discussed it before. Based on that, so the it controls the user plane function with respect to the how to route the data, and when to send the users data, at what time the users need to send the data and route the data, and what type of policy services available for that particular user. Those things is controlled by the session management function, right? It controls the user plane function, right? So as I said, here the session management function, we have many interfaces. It interacts with other block also, right? So ng4, it interacts with user plane function. ng5 is the interface interacts with application function. ng11 interacts with AMF. ng7 interface is interact with policy control function. ng10 is interacts with UDM, unified data management function. So I hope you are able to understand whatever I have discussed the 5G core network architecture. So the remaining blocks AUSF, UDM, policy control function and application functions I will discuss in the next video. Thank you.